Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're plunging into a truly monumental, often enigmatic work of philosophy and literature, Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra.
Yes, it's a book that truly defies easy categorization, isn't it? Famously subtitled, A Book for Everyone and No One.
Exactly.
For you, our mission today is to navigate its incredibly complex landscape, sort of extracting those vital nuggets of insight and helping you understand precisely why it remains so provocative and, well, profoundly influential, even in our modern world.
We've got a stack of fascinating sources that shed light not just on the book's profound ideas, but also on the remarkable and often quite tumultuous life of its creator. We'll explore how Nietzsche's deeply personal experiences shaped his radical philosophy and, crucially, how he intended for these challenging ideas to be lived and embodied, not just merely thought or, debated in academic ivory tower.
Absolutely. Our deep dive will reveal how Thus Spoke Zarathustra became nothing short of a profound resolution to Nietzsche's own immense intellectual crisis, offering a radical path forward after his famous and often misunderstood declaration that God is dead.
Right.
It's a journey into relentless self-overcoming, eternal affirmation of life, and a truly bold reimagining of human potential.
So let's unpack this dense, dazzling, and deeply personal philosophical narrative that Nietzsche poured his whole heart and soul into creating. It's quite the ride, so buckle up. To truly appreciate the revolutionary nature of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, we really need to first understand the mind that forged it. Friedrich Nietzsche's own life journey was, well, every bit as intense and transformative as the philosophy he developed. Born near Leipzig in 1844, he was the son of a Lutheran clergyman. His family was deeply, deeply rooted in the Lutheran Church. In fact, both his grandfathers were Lutheran ministers. With his paternal grandfather even holding the esteemed position of a superintendent, which is essentially the Lutheran equivalent of a bishop. So, a very pious religious background, you see.
Indeed, and you're right. As a boy, Nietzsche himself was intensely pious, quite befitting a pastor's son. However, something shifted dramatically in his late teens when he experienced a profound loss of faith and consequently abandoned the study of theology. What's fascinating is that he didn't just abandon it. He replaced this religious belief with a fervent, almost freelance philosophizing, transferring the same intensity of involvement and deep passion he had withdrawn from religion directly into his new intellectual pursuits.
So that intensity just shifted focus, really.
Precisely. This path away from the family parsonage, in essence, became a path of radical skepticism.
And what an impressive, almost meteoric start to his academic career it was. It's quite remarkable to think that at just 24, he was appointed to the chair of classical philology at Basel University.
24. Incredible.
I know. He remained there until 1879 when his deteriorating health, which would unfortunately plague him throughout his adult life, forced him into an early retirement.
Right, the health issues were always there, weren't they?
Constantly. During his time at Basel, he formed, and then later famously severed, a significant friendship with the influential composer Richard Wagner.
Ah, the Wagner connection. That's a whole story in itself.
It really is. He even participated briefly as an ambulance orderly in the Franco-Prussian War, giving him some direct experience with human suffering and conflict.
A taste of the real world beyond academia.
Exactly. His significant early works from this period include The Birth of Tragedy in 1872, Untimely Meditations from 1873 to 1876, and the first part of Human, All Too Human in 1878, which was followed by Supplements, Assorted Opinions and Maxims in 1879, and The Wanderer and His Shadow in 1880. So, a productive period despite everything.
Definitely. Following his retirement from 1880 until his final tragic mental collapse in 1889, Nietzsche largely withdrew from everyday life. He was supported by his university pension and lived mainly in France, Italy, and Switzerland, seeking climates that might alleviate his chronic ill health.
The sort of wandering existence.
Very much so. This decade saw him return to what he termed a skeptical path in the summer of 1876, embarking on a series of aphoristic books that form a profound course in 19th century skepticism. These include The Dawn in 1881 and The Gay Science in the autumn of 1882.
The Gay Science, another key one.
Absolutely. Now, the controlling tendency of his thought during this 5-year period was to dissect and, as the source puts it, break down all the concepts and qualities in which mankind takes pride and pleasure into a few simple qualities in which no one takes pride or pleasure.
That's a powerful and rather uncomfortable statement, isn't it? So essentially, he was trying to dismantle all the conventional ideas we hold dear, like morality or rationality, by exposing their often uncomfortable, non-rational origins.
Spot on. He aimed to abolish the higher or metaphysical world by explaining its supposed manifestations in terms of the purely human, phenomenal, and even animal world. The source describes this tendency as nihilist, noting that its cheerful tone and stylistic beauty couldn't really hide the underlying destruction.
And he knew this, didn't he? He was aware of the destructive implications.
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating is that Nietzsche himself was acutely aware of this, and it actually became his greatest, most pressing personal problem, deeply engaging his passion. This wasn't just an intellectual exercise for him.
No, it sounds deeply personal, almost agonizing.
Precisely. He pushed this devaluation of humanity to its absolute extreme, leading to what he termed ultimate skepticism, which he encapsulated in his own words. What then, in the last resort, are the truths of mankind? They are the irrefutable errors of mankind.
Blimey, that's stark.
It is. This is not a joyful conclusion, is it? It really marks a profound point of intellectual and existential crisis for him. How do you live? How do you find meaning if even your truths are just errors?
That passage is truly haunting, and it leads directly into his most famous, perhaps infamous conception of the world as fundamentally meaningless and chaotic.
Yes, the God is dead passage.
Exactly, from the gay science. Imagine the scene, if you will. A madman who lit a lantern in the bright morning hours, ran to the marketplace and cried incessantly, "I am looking for God. I am looking for God."
A really vivid image.
And amongst those who didn't believe in God, he was met with laughter and mocking questions. Have you lost him? Did he lose his way like a child? Or is he hiding? Is he afraid of us? Has he gone on a voyage? Or emigrated? It's quite striking, isn't it?
It is, but the madman's chilling response then pierces their mockery, revealing the profound depth of Nietzsche's diagnosis. "Where has God gone?" he cried. "I shall tell you. We have killed him, you and I. We are all his murderers." And then he poses these profoundly unsettling questions about the consequences of this act for humanity and for the cosmos itself. How were we able to drink up the sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon? What did we do when we unchained this earth from its sun?
Such powerful metaphors.
Aren't they? Whither is it moving now? Whither are we moving now? Away from all suns, are we not perpetually falling, backward, sideward, forward, in all directions? Is there any up or down left? Are we not straying as through an infinite nothing?
That sense of complete disorientation.
Exactly. Do we not feel the breath of empty space? Has it not become colder? Is more and more night not coming on all the time? Must not lanterns be lit in the morning? Do we not hear anything yet of the noise of the gravediggers who are burying God? Do we not smell anything yet of God's decomposition? God's too decomposed. God is dead. God remains dead. And we have killed him.
It's so much more than just atheism, isn't it?
Oh, far more. It's the realization that the traditional foundations for meaning, morality, and purpose, those absolute divine anchors, have simply eroded. It's not a joyful proclamation, but a terrifying diagnosis of the void humanity now faces.
And it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
Beyond God, Nietzsche asserts there is no other inherent ordering principle in the universe. He warns, "Let us beware of thinking the world is a living being. Let us likewise beware of believing the universe is a machine."
Right, rejecting both vitalism and mechanism.
He argues that the apparent astral order, like the predictable movements of planets, is actually an exception, not the universal rule. And the very formation of the organic, of life itself, is even more of an exception of exceptions.
So chaos is the default, essentially.
That's the picture he paints. This is a stark vision of cosmic indifference, a world without inherent design or purpose.
Precisely. He states, the total nature of the world is, on the other hand, to all eternity chaos, not in the sense that necessity is lacking, but in that order, structure, form, beauty, wisdom, and whatever other human aesthetic notions we may have are lacking.
So all our human values, they just don't apply to the universe itself.
Not in his view. From the perspective of human reason, the unsuccessful cases are far and away the rule. He warns against attributing human qualities like heartlessness and unreason, or their opposites to the universe, stating it's neither perfect nor beautiful nor noble, and has no desire to become any of these.
Quite humbling, really.
It's quite impervious to all our aesthetic and moral judgments. Furthermore, it has no inherent impulses, like self-preservation, and knows no laws, only necessities. Death is not the opposite of life. The living being is only a species of the dead, and a very rare species.
Oh, crikey.
So these passages, marking the end of the road for his nihilistic direction, truly constituted Nietzsche's intellectual crisis, which thus spoke Zarathustra was explicitly intended to confront and resolve.
And crucially, Nietzsche wasn't just spinning abstract theories in his head. He was, as you said, an embodied philosopher. He emphasized that his philosophy was not merely theoretical, stating explicitly, "I speak only of things I have experienced and do not offer only events in the head."
Yeah, that's a key distinction for him.
He truly believed one must want to experience the great problems with one's body and one's soul. He poured his entire being into his writing, saying, "I have at all times written my writings with my whole heart and soul. I do not know what purely intellectual problems are." He was all in.
He contrasted his approach with others, saying, "You know these things as thoughts, but your thoughts are not your experiences. I, however, am sitting in the carriage, and often I am the carriage itself."
What a metaphor.
Isn't it? For a man who thought this way, the dichotomy between thinking and feeling, intellect and passion, has really disappeared. He feels his thoughts. He can fall in love with an idea. An idea can make him ill.
Which makes his eventual fate even more poignant.
It's incredibly poignant, then, when we consider that his life ultimately ended in tragic mental and physical paralysis. He became insane in 1889 and died in 1900. This personal history adds a profound and often unsettling layer to his warnings about madness and the depths of human experience explored within the text itself. It's not just philosophy, it's a lived philosophy that almost consumed him. #2 Zarathustra's Awakening and Initial Teachings, Part 1.
So with Nietzsche's intellectual and personal crisis as the backdrop, we turn to the figure of Zarathustra himself. If Nietzsche found himself in this infinite nothing after God is dead, Zarathustra emerges as his radical answer, isn't he?
He is, yes, a figure embodying a path out of that void.
The story begins with Zarathustra, who has spent 10 years in profound solitude in a mountain cave with his companions, an eagle.
Representing pride and soaring vision.
And a serpent.
Symbolizing wisdom and cunning.
Right. He expresses a weariness of his accumulated wisdom, feeling like a bee that has gathered too much honey. I need hands outstretched to take it. He desires to give it away, so that the wise among men have again become happy in their folly and the poor happy in their wealth.
It's a lovely image, isn't it? This really sets the stage for his self-imposed mission. He asks, "Great star, what would your happiness be if you had not those for whom you shine?" This beautifully illustrates his overflowing nature of accumulated wisdom, which now seeks to descend from his solitude and impart itself to humanity.
He's like a vessel ready to pour out.
Exactly. He's a vessel of wisdom ready to share.
And what a revolutionary gift he proposes to bring to mankind. The Superman, or Übermensch.
Ah, the Übermensch.
Zarathustra declares his core purpose with electrifying clarity. I want to teach men the meaning of their existence, which is the Superman, the lightning from the dark cloud man. He issues a direct challenge to humanity, asking, all creatures hitherto have created something beyond themselves, and do you want to be the ebb of this great tide and return to the animals rather than overcome man?
It's a powerful call for transcendence, isn't it? A demand for humanity to push beyond its current limitations.
Definitely.
Absolutely. He asserts a truly transformative vision. What is the ape to men? A laughingstock or a painful embarrassment? And just so shall man be to the Superman. A laughingstock or a painful embarrassment?
So we're just a stepping stone.
Essentially, yes. He contends that man's journey from worm to man still leaves much worm within. Man is more of an ape than any ape. Even the wisest amongst us, he claims, is only a discord and hybrid of plant and of ghost.
That's quite the description.
The Superman, he proclaims, is nothing less than the meaning of the earth. And Zarathustra urges, let your will say, the Superman shall be the meaning of the earth. It's an act of willing, a creative act.
He describes the Superman in very evocative terms as a metaphorical sea capable of receiving the polluted river of humanity without being defiled.
A powerful image of absorption and transformation.
Into whom your great contempt can go under. He speaks of loving the great despisers because they are the great venerators and arrows of longing for the other bank.
So even contempt can be a positive force, a longing for something better.
Apparently so. These are individuals who sacrifice themselves to the earth, that the earth may one day belong to the Superman. He expresses love for those who live and work for knowledge, building a house and preparing the earth for the Superman, thus willing his own downfall for something greater.
A kind of creative destruction or sacrifice.
And Zarathustra identifies himself as a prophet of the lightning and a heavy drop from the cloud. But this lightning is called Superman.
To illustrate the challenging journey of the human spirit towards this ideal of the Superman, Zarathustra outlines 3 powerful symbolic metamorphoses.
Ah, yes, the camel, lion, and child.
Exactly. First, there's the camel. This represents the spirit as a weight-bearing spirit. taking upon itself all these heaviest things, hurrying laden into its desert. This signifies bearing burdens, duties, and inherited values, the state where we dutifully accept what's imposed upon us.
Carrying the weight of tradition, essentially.
Precisely. Then, in the loneliest desert, the spirit transforms into the lion. Here, it wants to capture freedom and be lord in its own desert.
The rebellion stage?
Exactly. This represents a fierce rejection of old authorities, a roar of defiance against the thou shalts, and the courageous will to assert one's own values. It's the spirit breaking free from external chains.
Throwing off the burdens.
And finally, the culminating metamorphosis, the child. This is where the true creation happens. The child is innocence and forgetfulness, a new beginning, a sport, a self-propelling wheel, a first motion, a sacred yes.
A sacred yes. I like that.
It's powerful, isn't it? This is the point where the spirit now wills its own will. The spirit sundered from the world now wins its own world. It embodies pure creation, free from the burdens of the camel and the rebellions of the lion, an unburdened and joyful affirmation of life and the self.
A complete transformation.
Oh.
As a stark and rather chilling contrast to the radiant vision of the Superman, Zarathustra warns against the ultimate man, whom he calls the most contemptible man. Someone so complacent they're incapable of even despising themselves.
The last man, yes. A terrifying prospect.
The ultimate man is characterized by a superficial, comfortable, and ultimately small existence. He asks, what is love? What is creation? What is longing? What is a star? And responds with a dull blink.
Just indifference?
The earth has become small, and upon it hops the ultimate man who makes everything small. His race is as inexterminable as the flea, and he lives longest.
This description is truly unsettling, isn't it? They declare, we have discovered happiness, and then blink, showing a shallow satisfaction.
Contentment as the enemy.
In a way, yes. They have abandoned places where living was hard, preferring warmth and rubbing against neighbors for comfort. Sickness and mistrust are considered sins. They walk warily, avoiding anything difficult or challenging.
Risk-averse to the extreme.
They take a little poison now and then for pleasant dreams, and a lot of poison at last for a pleasant death, illustrating their avoidance of any true struggle, even in dying. Work for them is merely entertainment, careful not to exhaust them.
Just bland existence.
Neither rich nor poor, as both states are too much of a burden. No one wants to rule or obey, to take responsibility or submit to anything higher. No herdsman in one herd. Everyone wants the same thing. Everyone is the same. Whoever thinks otherwise goes voluntarily into the madhouse.
That's chilling. Conformity or madness.
They believe, formerly, all the world was mad. It's a terrifying vision of absolute mediocrity and comfort, a warning against stagnation.
Initially, Zarathustra finds himself profoundly misunderstood by the very people he descends to teach. He laments, "They do not understand me. I am not the mouth for these ears."
He misjudged his audience, perhaps.
He admits he may have lived too long in the mountains, speaking to them as to goat herds, making him seem cold and a mocker with fearful jokes. His profound, challenging message simply falls flat, uncomprehended by the masses.
A truly dramatic and pivotal scene then unfolds in the marketplace. A tightrope walker falls to his death after being taunted by a buffoon.
Right, the catalyst.
Zarathustra, observing the tragedy, calls the fallen walker a corpse and offers to bury him. The buffoon, who later identifies himself as the tower buffoon, then whispers a direct, chilling warning to Zarathustra. Go away from this town. Too many here hate you.
Why do they hate him? Because he's different.
It seems so. The buffoon continues. The good and the just hate you and call you their enemy and despiser. The faithful of the true faith hate you, and they call you a danger to the people. It's a clear indication that his message, even if misunderstood, is perceived as a threat.
A threat to the established order, the comfortable way of things.
Precisely. This experience profoundly solidifies Zarathustra's resolve. He definitively abandons the idea of addressing the masses, stating, I will not be herdsman or gravedigger. I will not speak again to the people. I have spoken to a dead man for the last time.
A decisive break.
Instead, he announces a new, more targeted path. He will seek fellow creators, fellow harvesters, and fellow rejoicers to whom he will show the rainbow and the stairway to the Superman.
So he's looking for kindred spirits now, not converts.
Exactly. This shift marks a pivotal moment in his mission, moving from a broad sermon to a targeted search for those capable of understanding and embodying his philosophy. As Zarathustra continues his journey, his teachings delve into even more profound and often controversial concepts. One cornerstone and a direct challenge to centuries of Western thought is his radical revaluation of the body and self.
Oh, yes, this is fundamental, isn't it?
Absolutely. He profoundly challenges the traditional mind-body dichotomy, stating, "Once the soul looked contemptuously upon the body, and then this contempt was the supreme good. The soul wanted the body lean, monstrous, famished. So the soul thought to escape from the body and from the earth."
The classic ascetic ideal. And he critiques this with a piercing, almost visceral observation. Oh, this soul was itself lean, monstrous, and famished, and cruelty was the delight of this soul.
Ouch.
Instead, he proclaims a revolutionary idea. The body is a great intelligence, a multiplicity with one sense, a war and a peace, a herd and a herdsman. Your little intelligence, which we conventionally call spirit, is merely an instrument of your body, a little instrument and toy of your great intelligence.
So the body isn't just a vessel, it's the primary intelligence, the driver, not the driven.
Exactly what he seems to be saying.
Precisely. He argues that what senses feel and spirit perceives is never an end in itself. These are instruments and toys. Behind them still lies the self.
The self, with a capital S.
Yes. The self, in this framework, is the mighty commander, an unknown sage, who lives in and is your body. There is more reason in your body than in your best wisdom.
That's a bold claim. More reason than our best wisdom.
It is. He directly confronts despisers of the body, arguing their disesteem actually comes from their own creative self, which wants to die and turn away from life because it can no longer perform that act which it most desires to perform, to create beyond itself.
So despising the body is a sign of failed creativity.
That's his argument. For Zarathustra, these despisers are not bridges to the Superman. It's a fundamental reorientation. The body isn't something to be overcome or escaped. It's the very foundation of our being and our capacity for creation.
It sounds like this radical revaluation of the body is a prerequisite for what comes next, because if the body is our great intelligence, then what's its driving force?
Good question.
And that leads us directly to perhaps Nietzsche's most famous and often most misunderstood concept, the will to power.
Ah, yes, the will to power, often misinterpreted as simply wanting to dominate others.
Right. But Zarathustra identifies this as the fundamental drive in all living creatures. He observes, "Where I found a living creature, there I found will to power. And even in the will of the servant, I found the will to be master."
So it's everywhere, in every relationship.
Even in serving. The will of the weaker to serve the stronger, he posits, is driven by a desire for mastery over those weaker still. Even the greatest sacrifice and loving glances, he claims, contain this will to be master.
It's quite a cynical view of altruism, perhaps. Or maybe just realistic.
Or maybe looking deeper.
Perhaps. Life itself, he says, reveals this secret. "Behold," it said, "I am that which must overcome itself again and again." This overcoming is described not merely as a desire for external dominance, but as the will to procreate or impulse towards a goal, towards the higher, more distant, more manifold.
Ah, so it's more about growth, about expansion, becoming more.
Exactly. Life, he explains, would rather perish than renounce this one thing. And where there is perishing and the falling of leaves, there life sacrifices itself for the sake of power. This culminates in the profound statement, "Only where life is, there is also will." Not will to life, but so I teach you will to power.
Not will to life, but will to power. That's the core distinction.
It is. The living creature values many things higher than life itself, and out of this evaluation itself speaks the will to power. So it's not just about dominating others, but about an internal, relentless drive to become more than we currently are, a kind of biological and existential imperative towards self-transcendence.
The engine of evolution, almost.
It's the engine of evolution, both physical and spiritual, in Nietzsche's eyes. It's about saying yes to the constant struggle of becoming.
This understanding, Zarathustra believes, helps solve the riddle of your hearts, you wisest men, he declares. Unchanging good and evil does not exist. From out of themselves they must overcome themselves again and again.
There's that overcoming again. It's constant.
This is where the concept becomes a force for radical change. Those who assess values exert power through them. A mightier power and a new overcoming grow from out your values, breaking old structures. And he who has to be a creator in good and evil truly has first to be a destroyer and break values.
Creation requires destruction first.
That's the idea. Thus, he famously proclaims, the greatest evil belongs with the greatest good. This, however, is the creative good. He urges, speaking of suppressed truths, as all suppressed truths become poisonous.
Wow. That links truth-telling directly to this creative power. Perhaps the most challenging and transformative of Zarathustra's ideas is the eternal recurrence.
Ah, the big one. The ultimate test.
Indeed. This concept is presented as the heaviest burden, a thought that could either crush you utterly or, conversely, divinize you. Imagine for a moment a demon creeping into your loneliest solitude and saying, "This life, as you live it now and have lived it, you will have to live again and again, times without number.
Just the thought is overwhelming.
And there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy and every thought and sigh and all the unspeakably small and great in your life must return to you, and everything in the same series and sequence, and in the same way this spider and this moonlight among the trees, and in the same way this moment and I myself. The eternal hourglass of existence will be turned again and again, and you with it, you dust of dust."
The question then becomes, would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon? Or have you experienced a tremendous moment in which you would have answered him, "You are a god, and never did I hear anything more divine"?
It's the ultimate affirmation, isn't it?
This thought, if it truly gained power over you, would transform and perhaps crush you, lying as the heaviest burden upon all your actions. It forces the ultimate question of self-affirmation. Or how well disposed towards yourself and towards life would you have to become to have no greater desire than for this ultimate eternal sanction and seal?
It's a profound psychological experiment. The source explicitly connects this idea to amor fati, which translates to love of fate.
Love of fate.
It's described as a kind of Lutheran acceptance of the events of life as divinely willed. But here, it's twisted into a radical affirmation of life as such as divine. Eternal recurrence, then, becomes the extremist formula of life affirmation. It's an intellectual and emotional litmus test.
Could you love your life enough to live it infinitely?
That's the crux of it. This profound and challenging idea is powerfully illustrated in the shepherd and the snake allegory, a central vision in the book. Zarathustra walks gloomily through a deathly gray twilight, feeling oppressed. He confronts the spirit of gravity, depicted as a dwarf, at a gateway called Moment.
The spirit of gravity. That's not literal gravity, is it?
No. Here it's crucial to understand the spirit of gravity not as physical gravity, but as the psychological and cultural weight that pulls us down. The burden of inherited values, the fear of change, the comfort of mediocrity, and anything that keeps us from ascending to our full potential.
So it's a kind of intellectual and existential inertia. That makes sense. At this gateway, Zarathustra asks the dwarf to consider the two paths extending from this moment, one leading back eternally, one forward. He asks if all things that can run have already run along this lane. Must not all things that can happen have already happened, been done, run past?
Questioning the linearity of time.
And if so, must not this gateway too have been here before? And are not all things bound fast together in such a way that this moment draws after it all future things, therefore draws itself too? The dwarf merely murmurs, "Everything straight lies, all truth is crooked, time itself is a circle," hinting at the cyclical nature of existence.
And then the vision shifts dramatically. The scene then shifts abruptly to Zarathustra alone, where he sees a young shepherd writhing, choking, convulsed, his face distorted, and a heavy black snake was hanging out of his mouth.
The terrifying image.
The snake had bitten itself fast in the shepherd's throat, symbolizing the unbearable burden of the thought of eternal recurrence. Zarathustra tries to pull the snake, but fails. A voice, representing Zarathustra's profound will to overcome, cries from him, "Bite! Bite! Its head off! Bite!"
A moment of extreme crisis.
This is a cry of his horror, his hate, his disgust, his pity, all his good and evil. And in a moment of visceral liberation, the shepherd bites off the snake's head and spits it out. He then sprang up, no longer a shepherd, no longer a man, a transformed being, surrounded with light, laughing. Never yet on earth had any man laughed as he laughed.
Transformation through confronting the unbearable. And Zarathustra expresses a consuming thirst and longing for this laughter that was no human laughter, questioning, how do I endure still to live? And how could I endure to die now?
It's a profound moment of catharsis. This vision is presented as a vision and a premonition, an allegory for who is it that must come one day. The act of biting off the snake, which symbolizes the heaviest burden of eternal recurrence, transforms the human into a higher, laughing being.
It's about confronting the most terrifying idea and affirming it so completely that it becomes a source of immense joy and transformation.
Precisely. This theme culminates with the Midnight Song, a truly powerful and poetic exploration of eternal recurrence and the nature of joy.
Oh man, Attend. What does deep midnight's voice contend? I slept my sleep, and now awake at dreaming's end. The world is deep, deeper than day can comprehend.
Beautiful language.
Deep is its woe, joy deeper than heart's agony. Woe says, fade, go. But all joy wants eternity, wants deep, deep, deep eternity. It's a recognition of the profound depths of both suffering and joy.
And this expands into the profound statement that really stitches everything together. Did you ever say yes to one joy? Oh, my friends, then you said yes to all woe as well.
The package deal. All things are chained and entwined together. All things are in love. If you ever wanted one moment twice, if you ever said, you please me, happiness, instant moment, then you wanted everything to return. You wanted everything anew, everything eternal, everything chained and twined together, everything in love. Oh, that is how you loved the world, you everlasting men, loved it eternally and for all time. And you say even to woe, go but return, for all joy wants eternity.
It's a complete affirmation of life, isn't it? The good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, no exceptions.
Total acceptance.
Joy, in this context, is described as thirstier, warmer, hungrier, more fearful, more secret than all woe. It wants itself. It bites into itself. The will of the ring wrestles within it.
Joy wants itself.
Paradoxically, yes. Joy wants love. It wants hatred. It is superabundant. It gives, throws away, begs for someone to take it, thanks him who takes. It would like to be hated.
That's counterintuitive. Joy wanting hatred.
So rich is joy that it thirsts for woe, for hell, for hatred, for shame, for the lame, for the world, for it knows, it knows this world. Ultimately, joy wants eternity, wants deep, deep, deep eternity. This isn't a passive joy. It's an active, insatiable, all-encompassing affirmation.
Beyond these deeply personal and cosmic concepts, Zarathustra also delivers a fierce critique of the state as the new idol.
Yes, the political dimension.
He warns in no uncertain terms, the state. What is that? Well then, now open your ears, for now I shall speak to you of the death of peoples. He doesn't hold back, calling it the coldest of all cold monsters.
Strong language.
Coldly it lies too, and this lie creeps from its mouth. I, the state, and the people, it is a lie.
He argues that creators created peoples with faith and love, serving life in their own unique values, but then destroyers came along, setting snares, calling it the state, hanging a sword and 100 desires over people, corrupting their original spirit.
So the state is an artificial imposition on organic peoples.
That seems to be his view. Where a people still exists, Zarathustra claims, they inherently hate the state as an evil eye and sin against custom and law. Each people has its own authentic language of good and evil, but the state lies in all languages of good and evil, and whatever it says, it lies, and whatever it has stolen.
Blimey, no mincing words there.
None at all. Everything about it, he states, is false. It bites with stolen teeth. Even its belly is false.
This confusion of the language of good and evil is, for Zarathustra, a clear sign of the state, indicating a profound will to death, actively beckoning preachers of death.
A will to death. So the state is anti-life, in his view.
Fundamentally. He claims the state was invented for the superfluous, by which he means the many too many, the mediocre masses who lack individual purpose. It lures them, devours them and chews them and re-chews them.
A parasitic entity almost.
The monster bellows. There is nothing greater on earth than I, the regulating finger of God. It even tempts great souls, preying on their weariness from battle against the old God, offering a new seductive idol.
The state, he claims, buys the luster of your virtues and the glance of your proud eyes to lure the many too many. It's a cunning device of hell, a horse of death jingling with the trappings of divine honors.
Good grief.
It's a death for many that glorifies itself as life, a heartfelt service to all preachers of death. Zarathustra calls it the state where everyone good and bad is a poison drinker, the state where everyone good and bad loses himself, the state where universal slow suicide is called life.
Universal slow suicide. Called life. That's bleak.
He describes these people as superfluous, stealing inventors' works and wise men's treasures, calling their theft culture, yet turning everything to sickness and calamity. They vomit bile, which he equates to newspapers.
Even newspapers get it.
And devour one another. They acquire wealth, but paradoxically get poorer in spirit, striving for the throne, thinking happiness sits there. But often filth sits upon the throne, and often the throne upon filth too.
Power corrupts, or attracts filth.
Zarathustra urges his brothers to break the window and leap into the open air, to avoid this bad odor, leave the idolatry of the superfluous. It's a powerful, almost anarchic call to reject the homogenizing and life-sapping influence of the modern state.
Building on his revaluation of all values, Zarathustra embarks on a truly radical revaluation of the three most evil things, concepts traditionally deemed as inherently negative: sensual pleasure, lust for power, and selfishness.
Right, turning traditional morality upside down.
He aims to weigh them well and humanly at his headland overlooking the sea. Traditionally, sensual pleasure is seen as a goad and stake to all hair-shirted despisers of the body, and anathematized as the world by all afterworldsmen, those who seek an afterlife and believe it mocks them.
The rejection of the physical.
To the rabble, it's the slow fire over which they are roasted, a stewing oven of lust. However, Zarathustra turns this on its head. For free hearts, sensual pleasure is innocent and free, the earth's garden joy, an overflowing of thanks to the present from all the future.
A celebration of the present moment.
To the withered, it's a sweet poison. Yes, but to the lion-willed, those who embody strength and self-mastery, it's the great restorative and reverently preserved wine of wines.
So it depends on the person, on their inner strength.
It seems so. It is the great symbolic happiness of a higher happiness and highest hope, promising marriage and even more than marriage to many that are stranger to one another than man and woman, and who has fully conceived how strange man and woman are to one another. It's not about indulgence, but about a vibrant, healthy affirmation of the body and life itself.
Then there's lust for power. Traditionally, it's reviled as the scourge of fire of the hardest-hearted, a cruel torment reserved by the cruelest for himself, the dark flame of living bonfires.
Your destruction.
It's seen as the wicked fly seated upon the vainest peoples, mocking all uncertain virtue, riding every horse and every pride. It is the earthquake that breaks and bursts open all that is decayed and hollow, the rolling, growling, punitive destroyer of whitewashed sepulchres, the flashing question mark beside premature answers.
It sounds like a force of nature almost.
Before its glance, man crawls and bends and toils and becomes lower than the swine or the snake until at last the cry of the great contempt bursts from him. It's the fearsome teacher of the great contempt who preaches in the face of cities and empires, "Away with you," until at last they themselves cry out, "Away with me."
Yet Zarathustra asks with characteristic defiance, who shall call it lust when the height longs to stoop down after power? Truly, there is no sickness and lust in such a longing and descent.
So he reframes it, not base lust, but a noble descent.
This longing, he suggests, ensures the lonely height may not always be solitary, and that the mountain may descend to the valley, transforming it from a destructive, greedy force into a creative, life-affirming one, a will to overcome oneself and create new values.
The will to power is creative force again. And lastly, selfishness. Traditionally, to ill-use selfishness precisely that has been virtue and called virtue.
Selflessness as the ideal.
The world-weary cowards and cross-biters, he argues, wish to be selfless out of weakness, not strength. But Zarathustra presents it as a self-rejoicing that protects itself with its doctrines of good and bad as with sacred groves. It banishes from itself all that is cowardly.
Healthy selfishness banishes cowardice.
This healthy selfishness calls bad, that is to say, cowardly, and despises those who are always worrying, sighing, complaining, or gleaning small advantages. It also despises woeful wisdom that sighs all is vain.
Rejecting nihilistic resignation.
This glorious selfishness spits at slaves of all kinds, whether before gods and divine kicks, or before men and the silly opinions of men. It defines bad as broken down and niggardly servile, unclear, blinking eyes, oppressed hearts, and that false, yielding type of man who kisses with broad, cowardly lips.
Quite a scathing description of weakness.
And sham wisdom is all wit that slaves and old men and weary men affect, and especially the whole bad, raving, over-clever priest foolishness. He predicts a day, the transformation, the sword of judgment, the great noontide comes to them all. Then many things shall be revealed.
The great noontide again.
And he who declares the ego healthy and holy and selfishness glorious truly, he, a prophet, declares too what he knows. Behold, it comes, it is near the great noontide. This is a complete overturning of traditional morality, saying that true virtue lies in a robust, self-affirming ego.
So Nietzsche is challenging us to rethink these core human drives, and it seems that his revaluation also extends to what we conventionally consider good, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Building on this radical revaluation, Zarathustra issues a highly provocative critique of the good and just. He controversially states, "And whatever harm the wicked may do, the harm the good do is the most harmful harm."
Wow, that's a statement. The harm the good do.
He likens the good and just to Pharisees, whose spirit is imprisoned in their good conscience. The stupidity of the good is unfathomably clever.
Clever stupidity.
A paradox. He argues that The good have to be Pharisees. They have no choice. The good have to crucify him who devises his own virtue. That is the truth.
So the good are inherently opposed to genuine creativity in values.
That's his argument. They are the ones who hate the Creator most. Him who breaks the law tables and the old values, the breaker. They call him the lawbreaker.
The guardians of the status quo.
For the good cannot create. They are always the beginning of the end. They crucify him who writes new values on new law tables. They sacrifice the future to themselves. They crucify the whole human future.
Crikey. That's a heavy accusation.
Thus, Zarathustra issues a truly radical command. Shatter the good and just. It's not about embracing wickedness, but about questioning the stagnation and destructiveness of a good that stifles creation and new values.
In a truly fascinating and rather humorous episode, Zarathustra holds the Ass Festival, gathering the various higher men who have been drawn to him.
Ah, yes, the higher men, his potential disciples, sort of.
These are the unique characters Zarathustra encounters and seeks to guide, each representing a different facet of the human struggle in the post-God world. There's the prophet of weariness, an old pope, two kings, the ugliest man, the voluntary beggar, the shadow, and the sorcerer.
Quite the collection of characters.
The prophet, tired of mere water, demands wine, which the kings, surprisingly, have in abundance. Bread is scarce, but Zarathustra provides lambs and other delicacies, a curious feast.
A strange communion.
The central, deeply humorous figure of this festival is an ass, whose bray, in German law, sounds exactly like ja or yes.
Huh! The ass saying yes.
This is interpreted by the attendees as an eternal yay, an affirmation. The ass is praised for bearing burdens, being patiently submissive, and never saying nay. One character proclaims the ass created the world after his own image, that is, as stupid as possible.
A bit harsh on the ass.
He spurns no one, loves she-asses and figs, and his wisdom of a god is in that. And rather comically, the old pope defends worshiping God in this shape, rather than in no shape at all, arguing that he who said God is a spirit took the biggest step and leaped toward unbelief.
That's an interesting point, actually. Making God abstract makes him less believable.
His old heart, he claims, leaps and bounds to know that there is something left on earth to worship, even if it's an ass.
This gathering is a victory for Zarathustra, as the spirit of gravity, that mental and cultural weight we discussed earlier, begins to flee from these higher men.
The heaviness lifts.
He calls for new festivals for these blossomed forth individuals. A little brave nonsense, some divine service, an ass festival, some joyful old Zarathustra fool, a blustering wind to blow your souls bright.
Embracing foolishness and joy.
He urges them to remember this ass festival as a good omen devised by convalescents, those recovering from the sickness of old values, and to celebrate it for love of themselves and him. It's a joyous, almost carnivalesque acceptance of life's absurdities, a celebration of new affirmation.
During the Ass Festival, the old pope shares his deep knowledge of the old god he served, asserting he is more enlightened than Zarathustra himself in divine matters.
Oh, really? Challenging the master.
He describes his old god as hidden, full of secrecy, even getting a son through no other than secret and indirect means with what he calls adultery at the door of faith in him.
Cheeky.
The Pope notes that this god, initially hard and revengeful and building a hell, at length he grew old and soft and mellow and compassionate, more like a grandfather than a father, most like a tottery old grandmother.
God becoming senile almost.
And then, in a truly striking image, he describes the ultimate demise. Finally, he sat, shriveled, in his chimney corner, fretting over his weak legs, world-weary, weary of willing, and one day suffocated through his excessive pity.
Died of pity. That connects back to the critique of compassion.
Exactly. Zarathustra remarks that when gods die, they always die many kinds of death, but affirms that the old priest knows the truth of this particular demise. He describes the old god as ambiguous and indistinct, criticizing him for being angry when his meaning was mistaken and for taking vengeance on his pots and creations because they had turned out badly. That was a sin against good taste.
Huh. God committing a sin against good taste. Brilliant. This anthropomorphic demise of God through pity is a truly profound and characteristically Nietzschean image, linking God's death not to human wickedness, but to an overwhelming self-consuming compassion.
As Zarathustra seeks his higher men, he encounters a fascinating array of individuals, each wrestling with different aspects of the human condition and the very nihilism Nietzsche explored. We encounter the ugliest man, a figure of profound suffering.
Yes, the one tormented by pity.
Who has been persecuted, but notably not by hatred or henchmen. His tormentors are those who pity him, a subtle but devastating form of contempt in Zarathustra's eyes. the ugliest man reveals, "You have divined how he feels who killed God, how the murderer of God feels."
He identifies with the murderer of God.
He claims God had to die. He looked with eyes that saw everything. He saw the depths and abysses of man, all man's hidden disgrace and ugliness.
God's omniscience became unbearable for God himself, or for man.
For man, it seems. His pity knew no shame. He crept into my dirtiest corners. This most curious, most over-importunate, over-compassionate God had to die. It's an incredibly raw confession, isn't it?
It is. Zarathustra, in a moment of profound insight, observes that this man has loved himself as he has despised himself. He seems to me a great lover and a great despiser.
Love and contempt intertwined.
I have yet found no one who has despised himself more deeply. Even that is height. He wonders if this was the higher man whose cry I heard, suggesting that even profound self-contempt, if it reaches a certain depth, can be a sign of a greater, more profound capacity for experience and self-overcoming.
Then we meet the voluntary beggar. Zarathustra encounters this man who had thrown away great riches, having become ashamed of wealth and the rich themselves.
Disgusted by wealth.
He fled to the poor to give them his abundance, but ironically, they received him not. The beggar explains that all benevolence and petty giving provokes the base, and let the overrich be on their guard.
Generosity breeding resentment, another uncomfortable truth.
People today like to break the necks of such bottles that drop gifts from narrow necks, implying that generosity, especially from a position of wealth, is often met with resentment rather than gratitude.
He vividly describes lustful greed, bitter envy, sour vindictiveness, mob pride thrown in his face, stating rather sardonically, "It is no longer true that the poor are blessed. The kingdom of heaven, however, is with the cows."
Kingdom of heaven with the cows.
He was driven to the poorest by disgust with our richest, with those punished by riches who glean advantage from all kinds of sweepings, with cold eyes, rank thoughts, and this rabble that stinks to heaven, this gilded, debased mob whose fathers were pickpockets or carrion birds or ragmen.
He really doesn't like the rich or the poor much, does he?
With compliant, lustful, forgetful wives, for they are all of them not far from whores, he unlearned the distinction between poor and rich, fleeing until I came to these cows.
Finding solace with animals.
Zarathustra urges him to leave his cows, though they are his warmest friends and teachers, prompting Zarathustra to mischievously drive him away for his flattery, again showcasing Zarathustra's impatience with anything that smacks of complacency, even simple pastoral comfort.
Another fascinating figure is the shadow, who encounters Zarathustra, identifying himself as a wanderer who has already walked far at your heels, always going but without a goal and without a home.
The eternal wanderer type.
So that truly, I am almost the eternal wandering Jew, except that I am neither eternal nor a Jew. The shadow reveals a profound loss of faith and direction, a true existential crisis. I have broken up with you, whatever my heart revered. I have overthrown boundary stones and statues. I have pursued the most dangerous desires. Truly, I once went beyond every crime.
Complete deconstruction of values.
He has unlearned with you belief in words and values and great names, and profoundly, he lives by the dictum. Nothing is true, everything is permitted.
The nihilist credo.
He plunged into coldest water and often stood naked like a red crab, symbolizing his exposure to raw, unfiltered truth. He mourns the loss of his goodness and shame and belief in the good and the mendacious innocence that I once possessed, the innocence of the good and their noble lies.
The pain of lost illusions.
He recounts how truth kicked me in the face when he followed it closely, and that sometimes when he intended to lie, he only then hit the truth.
Paradoxes of truth and lies.
Too much has become clear, and he is no longer concerned with it. He loves no longer anything living. How should I still love myself? His desperate cry for belonging. Where is my home? I ask and seek and have sought for it. I have not found it. O eternal, everywhere. O eternal, nowhere. O eternal vanity.
Crikey. That character perfectly embodies the profound emptiness that can follow the death of God, a nihilism that has stripped away all meaning and purpose.
Absolutely lost.
Zarathustra recognizes him as his shadow and warns him of the danger of his bad day, suggesting a prison might seem bliss to such a restless soul. He cautions against being captured by a narrow belief, a hard, stern illusion, as he has lost your goal and lost your way. He offers his cave as a resting place, a sanctuary for a soul adrift.
Zarathustra also has some unexpectedly strong words of poets. He states that since he knows the body better, the spirit has been only figuratively spirit to me, and all that is intransitory, that too has been only an image.
Dismissing the spiritual claims of poetry.
A clever play on good as Faust there. He notes that poets believe they catch a little of the things that are between heaven and earth when they prick up their ears in solitude. They think nature is in love with them and creeps up to their ears to speak secrets in amorous, flattering words.
Accusing them of vanity.
They boast and pride themselves before all mortals. Zarathustra concludes with a hint of disdain that all gods are poets' images, poets' surreptitiousness.
So gods are just poetic inventions.
That's his take. He sees it as humanity always striving, upward that is, to cloudland. We set our motley puppets on the clouds and then call them gods and supermen. He questions if these god-supermen are light enough for these insubstantial seats, implying they are mere illusions.
Pretty dismissive.
He expresses weariness of all the unattainable that is supposed to be reality, and ultimately, alas, how weary I am of the poets. He admits he sees pearls in poets, but often salty slime instead of soul, and they learned vanity from the sea, which unfurls its tail even before the ugliest of buffaloes.
Ouch. It's a dismissal of their traditional role as divine messengers, seeing them as purveyors of comforting fictions rather than creators of truly new values.
He also provides counsel on the flies of the marketplace and the value of solitude. Zarathustra advises fleeing to solitude, away from the uproar of the great men and the stinging of the small ones.
The need for isolation to think clearly.
He notes that where solitude ceases, there the marketplace begins, and where the marketplace begins, there begins the uproar of the great actors and the buzzing of the poisonous flies.
Poisonous flies. The annoying, superficial crowd.
Seems like it. He critiques the marketplace mentality where truth is superficial, based on gestures and blood as arguments. They demand a quick yes or no.
No room for nuance or deep thought.
Truth, he stresses, does not cling to the arm of an inflexible man. He warns, the experience of all deep wells is slow. They must wait long until they know what has fallen into their depths.
Wisdom takes time. Patience is needed.
This implies that true wisdom requires patient contemplation, not quick answers. He argues that all great things occur away from glory in the marketplace. The inventors of new values have always lived away from glory in the marketplace.
Creation happens in solitude.
He recognizes that his neighbors will always be poisonous flies, whose praise is importunity, and who would dearly like to suck your blood. His own greatness, ironically, makes them more poisonous and ever more fly-like.
Greatness attracts pests, essentially.
He warns, no longer lift your arm against them. They are innumerable, and it is not your fate to be a fly swat. He advises fleeing to solitude, where the raw, rough breeze blows, a metaphor for the pure, unadulterated air of individual thought, away from the contamination of the crowd.
Zarathustra offers a particularly controversial critique of pity and compassion. He sees greater follies than with the compassionate, and more suffering caused by their follies than anything else. He exclaims, woe to all lovers who cannot surmount pity.
Surmount pity. Not eliminate it, perhaps, but overcome its weakening aspects.
Possibly. He even recalls the devil's words. Even God has his hell. It is his love for man. And I lately heard him say these words, God is dead. God has died of his pity for man. This is a truly radical notion, that even God's demise could be linked to an excess of this seemingly virtuous trait.
Linking back to the ugliest man and the old pope.
Exactly. He advocates for a certain distance and compassion, preferring to cover my head and flee away before I am recognized when faced with suffering. He asserts that he does better things when I learn to enjoy myself better, and that learning to enjoy oneself best unlearns how to do harm to others.
Self-enjoyment as a way to avoid harming others. Interesting.
He famously washes his hand after helping a sufferer because he was ashamed on account of his shame, and in helping, he sorely injured his pride.
So helping can actually be harmful to the recipient's pride.
That's the implication. He states, great obligations do not make a man grateful, they make him resentful. He advises, be reserved in accepting. Honor a man by accepting from him. This isn't a call to heartlessness, but to distinguish between a weakening pity that degrades both giver and receiver and a compassionate strength that enables true growth and self-reliance.
Finally, we turn to Zarathustra's observations on the small people and their demise. He observed that people have become smaller and are becoming ever smaller, and their doctrine of happiness and virtue is the cause.
The pursuit of comfortable happiness makes us smaller.
That's the argument. They are modest even in virtue, for they want ease, but only a modest virtue is compatible with ease.
Their progress, he notes, is a limping, hindering those in a hurry. They lie in wait for one another, they wheedle things out of one another, they call that good neighborliness. This is called cowardice, though they prefer to call it virtue.
Ouch. Good neighborliness is cowardice.
He warns, "You will become smaller and smaller, you small people. You will crumble away, you comfortable people. You will yet perish through your many small virtues, through your many small omissions, through your many small submissions.
Death by 1,000 small comforts.
Their soil is too indulgent, too yielding, but in order to grow big, a tree wants to strike hard roots into hard rocks," he prophesies. "And soon they shall stand before me like arid grass and steppe, and truly weary of themselves and longing for fire rather than for water."
Longing for intensity, even destructive intensity, over blandness. It's a stark warning against the dangers of comfort and mediocrity, suggesting that true growth and strength require facing hardship. In drawing these complex threads together, Zarathustra presents the creator as destroyer and redeemer. He teaches his followers. The will is a creator. He urges them to become creators of the future and, profoundly, to redeem the past by creating.
Redeeming the past.
How? This means transforming every it was, every event, every setback, every fate into an "I wanted it thus." It's about taking ownership of one's entire existence.
Connecting back to amor fati and eternal recurrence.
Exactly. He sees his own suffering and struggle as an integral part of this creative process, acknowledging that "I myself am the frightened bird who once saw you naked and without paint, and I flew away when the skeleton made advances to me."
A moment of vulnerability, even for Zarathustra.
This is a powerful, almost confessional moment. He declares, one must have chaos in one to give birth to a dancing star.
One of his most famous lines, chaos as the prerequisite for creation.
It's about finding creative power and beauty within the raw, untamed, even terrifying aspects of existence. Central to this creative process is the importance of self-love and hardness.
Healthy self-love, as he defined it earlier.
He stresses that to become light in a bird, one must love himself with a sound and healthy love. This is distinctly not the love of the sick and diseased or shallow narcissism, but a robust self-affirmation. Self-love, he argues, is the finest, subtlest, ultimate, and most patient art, as one's own treasure pits are the last to be bigged due to the aforementioned spirit of gravity. It's an inward journey that requires immense effort.
He critiques those who bear too many foreign things upon their shoulders, like a camel laden down, making life seem to him a desert. He believes that what makes hard is praiseworthy, not a land where butter and honey flow.
Hardship builds strength.
To behold the ground of things and their background, one must climb above yourself up and beyond until you have even your stars under you. This requires hardness, not in the sense of cruelty, but as inner resilience and strength.
Climbing above oneself, self-overcoming again.
He concludes, the gentlest part of you must become the hardest. A paradox that implies a sensitive soul must cultivate immense inner strength to truly create and overcome.
In a vivid and rather playful personification, Zarathustra describes his interaction with life as woman and wisdom's dance. She is changeable and untamed and in everything a woman, and no virtuous one, despite men conventionally calling her profound or faithful.
Life is wild and unpredictable.
His wild wisdom then tells him, with a wry observation, you will, you desire, you love, that is the only reason you praise life. It's a recognition that our affirmation of life is rooted in our deepest desires and drives.
A self-aware moment. Life, in turn, is depicted as being jealous of his wisdom, highlighting the inherent tension between raw experience and intellectual understanding.
The eternal dance between life and thought.
Zarathustra describes wisdom as something one thirsts for and is not satisfied, alluring even the cleverest old fish and most seductive when she speaks ill of herself. This dynamic suggests a profound interplay between profound desire, the raw, untamed force of existence, and the intellectual pursuit of understanding, all interwoven with a touch of playful flirtation and tension.
It's a reminder that embracing life means embracing its paradoxes and its challenging, untamed nature.
Absolutely. This entire journey, from Nietzsche's initial intellectual crisis and nihilistic despair to Zarathustra's ultimate affirmation, is marked by an enduring tension that culminates in the idea of the great noontide.
The synthesis point.
Zarathustra declares, my happiness is deep. Deep is its woe. He explicitly experiences a great sadness when he sees everything as empty, everything is one, everything is past, directly reflecting the nihilistic crisis he sought to overcome.
He doesn't shy away from the darkness.
Not at all. But he pushes through this despair, driven by his profound will. His will clings to mankind, drawn always to the ideal of the Superman. He practices manly prudences, being considerate to the vain, finding pleasure in seeing the wicked, and disguising himself among others to better understand humanity in all its forms.
Practical wisdom alongside the grand vision.
The great noontide represents a pivotal, almost mystical moment. It is when man stands at the middle of his course between animal and Superman and celebrates his journey to the evening as his highest hope. For it is the journey to a new morning.
A transitional point for humanity.
At this point, man, going under, will bless himself, for he will be going over to Superman, and the sun of his knowledge will stand at noontide, illuminating everything. The ultimate declaration, a resounding answer to the earlier pronouncement. All gods are dead. Now we want the Superman to live. Let this be our last will one day at the great noontide.
From God is dead to we want the Superman to live.
This vision truly integrates suffering, joy, and creation into an eternal, self-affirming cycle, a powerful path out of the void. We've truly traversed the challenging, exhilarating terrain of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, from Nietzsche's personal struggles and the profound declaration that God is dead, to the transformative visions of the Superman, the will to power, and the eternal recurrence.
It's been quite a journey. It's a journey that doesn't shy away from the abyss, does it?
Not at all.
Absolutely. It's clear this is no easy read, but it's a deeply felt philosophy urging us to embrace our full humanity, to acknowledge the chaos of existence, and to continually overcome ourselves for the sake of creation. It's about finding meaning, not in predetermined values, but in the values we ourselves bravely create.
Zarathustra's journey, culminating in that electrifying vision of the laughing shepherd who has bitten the head off the snake of eternal recurrence, truly embodies the core message that even the heaviest burdens, once confronted and embraced fully, can lead to a transfigured, light-filled existence.
The ultimate affirmation.
It asks us to say an unconditional yes to life, to all of it, again and again.
So for you, our listener, here's a thought to carry forward from this deep dive. How does the idea of overcoming yourself again and again resonate with your own journey? And what heaviest burden in your life, if confronted and affirmed completely, could transform you into a laughing, light-surrounded being?
And perhaps consider what chaos you might need to embrace within yourself to give birth to a dancing star.
Until next time, keep diving deep.